So I learned a lot about bipolar disorder, and that there are suicides in the book is something that's personal to me. I have had about, and it's in the back of the book, I think 6 people that I know have committed suicide. And in fact, we have our nephew, Jeffrey, whose dad committed suicide. He was living with us for a while. He's now at Salem State. He's doing great. But we dealt with that when he was 12. And so this seems to have run through my life. And I think we sometimes write about the things that we don't understand. Mm. So that's been, it's a way to work things out a little bit for me. So it's, I'm always fascinated by research. And, that's one of my favorite parts of the book, of any book, is researching the subject matter. So, and then when I actually have to start writing, I'm a little panicked. This time it was on a deadline. The first book took 7 years because it was my first book and no one was waiting for it. But the second one I had a deadline of 2 years and a 6-month book tour, which included 2 trips to Italy, which were lovely. But, clock is ticking. And I don't write quite as well. I could do my research there. Take my books along, but I write best when sitting at my desk in a certain position. I'm just one of those writers. So it was a rush to the finish. Not really, because we had a long time to revise. But the first draft, I think I made the deadline 3 hours before, maybe 20 minutes before it was due. And my editor was saying, don't worry about it. In fact, I got really bad advice from writers, I have to say. And I'm going to blame Andre Debuse for this. But the first speaking engagement I had was with him, and he's so great. But I said, I have a deadline of 2 years. He goes, deadlines. Forget deadlines. Don't pay no attention to deadlines. But then my agent and even my editor said, after HarperCollins got rid of Collins and laid off many people, they said, this is not the year to miss a deadline, especially for a new writer. No matter how well your first book did. So I didn't miss it, but it was agreed that I would have plenty of time to edit and to rewrite. So I did. So, other questions?
I just started reading The Lace Reader, and I like it so very, very much. And could you tell me what led to that book?
Sure. That the first night we moved back, we moved to Marblehead and had bought a house that my dad had used for his real estate office. It was a 3-family house, and having been apartment dwellers for a long time, not knowing much about real estate, we decided we'd renovate, knock down walls, and live in it at the same time. Not a good idea. But we didn't know better. And so we moved back and all the boxes came, but I unpacked very little because the next day we were going to knock out a wall between the tiny kitchen on the 2nd floor that we were going to make larger. And it was going to be a dusty job at the very least. So I didn't unpack much, but I did unpack a little piece of lace that I'd carried everywhere to Chicago and New York and San Francisco and LA, and it had always been on my bedside table. And it was a little piece of bobbin lace that my Irish grandmother had given me as kind of a cautionary gift. It was, I was not a troubled kid. I was a troublemaker in high school. I was always in trouble. I was always wherever I shouldn't be and doing something I shouldn't be doing. So my Irish uncles in Marblehead, and I had 4 of them and about 30 first cousins. And just one cousin on my mother's side, but my dad's side, I had a lot, and they were always watching out for me. And they were threatening me with a school called St. Chrétien's in Salem. I don't know if anyone knows it. It's now part of Salem State. It's up on a hill. It was run, it's really Chrétien's. It was run by nuns from Quebec. And the legend was, here's another child's legend, was that if you went in, you became a nun. And you were never seen again. So I wanted to avoid St. Chrétien's, but they knew that. And so every time I misbehaved, they would say, St. Chrétien's, right up in the hill, we can take you there right now. So for Christmas one year, my Irish grandmother gave me a piece of bobbin lace made by the nuns at St. Chrétien's, and it was beautiful. But the message that she gave me was, you too could learn to make pretty lace. So it was a cautionary gift. And so I kept it, and I lost my grandmother when I was in my 20s, and it's a beautiful lace. And of course I didn't go to St. Chrétien's. I kind of got smarter about what I did. And but I carried this place to place, and it was what I've had of my grandmother's. And this particular night when we first moved back, I unpacked it and put it on the bedside table because it was kind of meant home to me. And I went to sleep and had a dream that the contractors, when they came the next day, who were going to knock out the wall. I dreamed that I held that little piece of lace up to the wall they were about to knock out in an attempt to see through the wall and see the kitchen that they would create. Now that's dream logic, but in a dream it makes sense. And I was very interested in doing this. And I stared at the lace until I could see something, but what I saw wasn't a kitchen, it was a field of horses. And in the middle of, on Main Street in Marblehead, first of all, that's never going to happen, but also I'm really allergic to horses. We used to laugh when we went to the New Year's parade, the Rose Bowl parade in Pasadena when we lived out there, that I had to take an EpiPen to the parade because I'm so allergic if a horse goes by. So it wasn't a good dream. It was an anxiety dream for me. And I finally got back to sleep. The next day, the contractors came in, and they were about to start the job, putting on their masks and complaining bitterly because it was a messy job. And the contractor looked at me and said, "I hate this old horsehair plaster. It gets in the air and you can never get it out." And it turns out that this is a Victorian house, and the Victorians evidently used horsehair to bind the plaster or to, well, they used it as a filler, I'm not sure, but had we knocked, we said stop, and had we knocked the wall out, this would not have been good, especially if you could never get it out. It probably would have been an emergency room trip at the very least, and we probably couldn't have lived in the house. So we lived there a little while longer, and then we bought a house in Salem, and that kind of gave me the rest of the story. But at the time that I dreamed it, I thought that lace reading was something real, and that I'd heard about it and kind of stored it subconsciously. And of course I headed right over to Salem because they read everything in Salem. You can go right down to the docks and to the witch stores. And but I've been looking for years and I haven't found lace readers. Although now, if you want a lace reading, now that the book has come out, all the Salem witches are reading lace. So you just come to Salem and have your lace read. It's kind of good. So that was the beginning. And then the rest, the Ipswich lace industry is real. And when we moved to Salem, I went to PEM, to PBS Museum, and took, and there was a woman named Marta Cottrell who was writing a book on the laces of Ipswich, which was the first industry run by women, and maybe the only industry that was all women. I think there were 602 houses in Ipswich and between 1750 and 1850, and 600 women making lace. And they all said they were making it in their own houses by themselves. We don't think it's true. We think the reason they said that was because it was illegal for women to gather in Massachusetts at the time because it was too close to the witch trials. So that's just a little historical fact. You might find it interesting. So anyway, that's how the lace reader started. Any other questions? Well, thank you all very much. Great to meet you. I'll be right over here.